Let me tell you why you're here.
I've seen things.
Oh my god.
Whoa, yeah! You don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.
Guaranteed to jack you up.
Yo, what is going on, my dudes? It's your host, Lamar Staysbury, coming to you once again with another podcast. Now, today we're going to be talking about a movie I really like. I feel like I'm saying that with every single movie, but hey, it is my podcast and I can talk about the movies I love. You're not really going to see me talk about movies I hate because I don't want to just like dog on any movie or anything like that. I don't want to just put out a podcast or something and I'm shitting on a movie the whole time. That's not good vibes. That's not good etiquette. That's not something I want to do. It's not my vibe. We're only going to be talking about movies I really, really like and that I love. That's just it. And obviously you can tell by the thumbnail today, we're talking about Jordan Peele's like directorial debut, Get Out. Now, I know this movie has been talked about to hell and back, but rightfully so. And I still feel like the conversations are probably not done because it's still something that needs to be acknowledged consistently. Like, this is something that has to be talked about. And it is, I believe, a modern classic that doesn't need to go away and probably won't go away anytime soon at all. This movie has stellar performances, and honestly, I don't see anywhere that it has any room for any sort of loose ends or just bad writing. I think that is a very tight-knit, well-rounded story, incredible performances, incredible box office and award nominations. It's all over the place. It deserves all the credit that it got, rightfully so. Jordan Peele really outdid himself. He broke the mold like crazy. I'm pretty sure nobody saw this coming from him like back in the day, like around this time period. I know I was shocked that the guy that made this is the same guy I used to watch on Mad TV in the early 2000s. And then he had Key and Peele, which is amazing, a very funny skit show. He definitely knows how to balance the line. And of course, we talked about his previous work before. We'd covered Nope. That was a great movie. I'm not really going to cover Us. I didn't really care for it. A lot of people enjoyed it. Very successful. I'm happy it worked out because I want projects to succeed so that way we get more things out of it. That is the whole purpose. I'm so excited for horror movies to be doing as well as they are to be going in the direction. We've been in like incredible horror like renaissance. It's been amazing how serious people are now taking these films and like this genre and doing all these incredible things, getting to know bigger names, and it's amazing where we are, and I'm really thrilled that I'm here for this era. I get to see a lot of these movies in theaters because a lot of times they're not coming back, but it is a thing. Now I feel like movie theaters are starting to see the significance of the movie theater experience and getting to watch these big movies from back in the day back on the big screen because people like me didn't get a chance to see them. I've gotten to see so many movies all because of anniversaries or just special showings, and I'm forever grateful. I think the very next one coming up is probably going to be Star Wars Phantom Menace for me. I know Fifth Element is getting another one. I love Fifth Element, and I like there's so many others. I think got the Spider-Man trilogy coming back in theaters. Like there's so much out there. The theater experience is amazing. And I'm glad somebody like Jordan Peele was able to put out a movie that just did so fucking wonderful. And now he has that like as a notch in his belt. Like that is amazing for any director. He has an incredible story of just people doubting him, not sure like that would be something he could even do because I mean he was just an actor, a plus on Mad TV. And then he separated from that because, you know, work environment wasn't the greatest. I've heard multiple stories and I follow other people from the show. And he went off, did his own thing, did amazing at that. And then he's like, you know what? We're going to end it there. They ended it. Keegan-Michael Key and Jordan Peele, they ended it because they thought they've already done what they wanted to do. So now they want to go off and do more things. No bad blood between them. Obviously, they support each other to the fullest and would definitely get back together to do something else. That's incredible. Now, Jordan Peele had the opportunity to go and start his path on being an incredible writer and director. So I'm excited to see where everything goes. We're going to dive into this movie. I'm going to talk about some facts and then a little bit of the synopsis of the film. and then we'll go into it just like we always do. But before we get into any of that, I do want to acknowledge, of course, this movie has so much social commentary. It is bleeding social commentary. And me being a white passing person, I don't have the expertise to fully dissect this whole movie, his experiences, the actors' experiences, or even people I may know on a personal level's experiences. I can just go by what I've seen, what I've heard, and what I can just try to interpret in my mind. But all in all, I'm not them. I don't have these experiences. I only have my own, but do want to acknowledge that. So by all means, definitely go listen to maybe somebody like another person of color who is actually represented in the movie, and maybe listen to their opinion and how this movie affected them. I'm genuinely curious how somebody felt, and I'll go into that a little bit later whenever I actually start talking about the movie itself. I just wanted to go ahead and put that out there, so now we know. So this movie came out on February 24th, 2017. So if you have that as a birth date, that's amazing. Of course, Jordan Peele would want a movie like this to come out during Black History Month. A very wonderful way to end it and start a whole conversation and debate and just trying to acknowledge all these different topics for that year. So I know that must have been a crazy time. Do I fully remember what it was like? No, not really. I just remember watching the movie, blown away. Wow, that was fucking amazing. And it's funny because when I went to watch this movie, I can't remember if it was opening night or what. I really can't remember. But I went to the movie with my ex. We're both biracial. I'm obviously very white passing, but I am half Mexican and half just white. And then she is also half black, half Mexican. So she's Afro-Latina. And she's more black passing, I guess you would say. I don't really know the proper term for that, so forgive me for my ignorance on that. But we went, and after the movie, man, I had this weird look from this older black lady whenever we came out the movie theater, and it was so strange, dude. I but it's like I couldn't blame her after the shit we just saw on the screen. So it was an unexpected, like, funny thing, even though she was probably like scared for like my ex's life in that moment. But dude, that was the funniest shit ever. And honestly, I wonder, did anybody else have a similar experience to anything like that? Because I can't imagine you're going to watch this movie like, oh yeah, I wonder what's gonna happen. Like, I can't remember what the trailers were like or anything. And then you're like an interracial couple and you turn around, go watch this movie, and then right after it's like, bro, did anybody else get weird looks like I did? Because I would love to know, because if not, that was a very unique experience, and honestly, it just made it even better for me. All right, so now I'm going to get into some of the stats about the movie, but it's sitting at a 7.8 on IMDb. I think that's very well worth it. I would say that's pretty fair. On Letterboxd, the average is a 4.2 out of 5. That is like, wow, the ratings on that film is gnarly, man. Like, go look at the stats. I don't want to go into all of them. And the movie was also nominated for 213 awards, probably more, give or take, but that's what I saw when I was researching. And it won 153 awards and 1 Oscar for Best Original Screenplay. Now, forgive me if it seems like I'm spreading my cheeks and writing his meat, but Jordan Peele has been, he deserved this success. Directorial debut and writing debut of a movie. You win a fucking Oscar, and you go on to start like this whole discourse about race and like microaggressions and allyship, how that could be real, it could be fake, this whole facade, like, it's all over the place. It started so much, and that's why I think this movie has such a cultural significance and definitely had an impact. And I think 100% probably inspired plenty of people from that demographic to see that they can chase these things just as much as he did and do wonderful. That it's not just like dominated by people like Scorsese and the Tarantinos of the world, Michael Bay's and Zack Snyder's. It's not all them. It could be Jordan Peele's. It can be other people. It's there, man. And it's in reach. And I really hope, and I know it inspired somebody out there, and I can't wait to hear the story of, I went and saw Get Out in the theaters. That motivated me to where I could be in this seat today showing off their movie or their acting performance in a movie, something like that. I can't wait to see more discourse about that. But now, this movie only had a budget of $4.5 million, and you guys cannot guess the box office return on that. I want to give you a bit of a minute, but think about it for a little bit. If you got a number in your head, all right, think about it. And then here comes the real number. Well, worldwide box office was $255.5 million. That is insane. I don't know what type of percentage increase is that. I'm not going to go into all that because that's math. I'm not doing math right now, okay? But amazing. For an hour and 44 minutes, they made $255.5 million. That is incredible. All right, so now I'm gonna hop off the meat, but I want to give the guy his flowers, wine and dine him a little bit, give him flowers, and then get on the meat and satisfy. That's what I like to do. I'm a people pleaser. I gave him his flowers. This probably won't be the last time I ever do it, but there we go. We did that, and then I'm gonna get into the synopsis of the film. And if you guys hear my chair squeaking, I am so fucking sorry. I tried my best to edit around it and just try not to move like my lower half too much, but I got a squeaky ass chair, man, and I don't have WD-40, so just fucking deal with it. All right, so in this film, we're going to be following Chris and Rose. Chris is played by Daniel Kaluuya, who is also in Black Panther and Judas and the Black Messiah. And he played OJ in Jordan Peele's Nope, who I wish he would give a bigger shine to in this movie, just because I've started to like him a lot over the last couple months. My girlfriend and I both agree. Lakeith Stanfield, that guy, man. We like Lakeith in this house. We love Lakeith in this house. And I'm trying to find more projects that he's in. I haven't watched all of his movies, but I'm starting to go back and look at his discography because I started to actually really dig him in Atlanta, which has like Childish Gambino. And that was a great show. Like I said, binged all of that one. That's kind of what kept me in a hiatus before the Bodies episode just about a week ago. I was busy watching all 4 seasons of that. So yeah, and he was my main draw to watch that show. All right, so back to the synopsis. Rose is also played by Allison Williams. Last thing I saw her in, and the only thing I really know her from, she played Gemma and Megan. But Chris and Rose are dating. They're an interracial couple, and I think this is something that all interracial couples just have to go with. And I'm sure it's a very strange situation. But she wants him to meet her parents, so they're gonna have a weekend getaway. And once he goes there, they're really nice. They're like overly nice, very like accommodating, but it's strange, and it leads to a whole weekend of you could not fucking believe what is going to happen. Watching this the very first time, I had no idea what the hell we were getting into. I kind of had a thought like, all right, yeah, I kind of see where this is going. No, the route that they take and the shit that's going to go on never would have crossed my fucking mind. Like, oh yeah, this is definitely what this movie's about. Nobody would have fucking guessed this, man. Nobody, not even your like smartest film bro would have known the shit that was going to happen by the end of this movie. So now we're going to get into the movie. So spoiler section all ahead. If you haven't seen it, definitely go watch it, then come back. Or if not, just listen to this and then maybe this convinces you to watch it. But I love how Jordan Peele starts off this movie. It is an over 2-minute one shot. Now, if you guys don't know what a one shot is, it's kind of self-explanatory. There is no cuts. Everything is just live. And that is hard to do, especially if you have a lot going on. In this, not a whole lot, but it's super tense. They caught the mood just right, with blocking, which is pretty much setting everything up to where it needs to be, to where it's perfect view in the camera, how it's supposed to be. It is extremely difficult. You have to get it like just right. It takes a lot of precision. And here they did a fantastic job because it is this 2-minute take of just following Lakeith Stanfield's character, Andre, because he's trying to find the house. He's lost. So it's tense. It's dark. He's by himself. There's nobody around. And then this one single car just comes up, passes him, and it stops. And that freaks him out. And he's like, you know what? Nah, I'm going to turn around. Like, I'm going to try to walk the other way. But if you pay attention, there is this subtle increase in clarity of the music that's coming from the car. And that lets you know, and it lets Andre know, the car door just opened. I can now hear the music clearly. And when he turns around, that's when he gets choked out and he starts to get abducted. And another thing I love about this scene is because this goes to show that a black man just walking down the street by himself with nobody else around has the same type of fear as a woman that could just be walking down an alleyway, to show that this fear has nothing to do with race. It is just about people. This is one of those moments where it is about a person, a just individual. That's it. Being afraid of their environment because they don't know where they are or anything could happen. So they have the same fear as that. So that lets people. So I believe that's done in a sense to make you connect with that person, because I'm sure plenty of people, and of course plenty of women, have felt scared when walking down somewhere by themselves. So they get to find themselves in that. And some men do as well. I mean, I'm definitely, I mean, I'm going to play it cool like he is. Am I going to be like kind of just side eyeing a bunch of stuff, making sure the coast is clear, or that I'm aware of my surroundings? Yeah, 100%, because I'm trying to live out here, bro. But there's also another layer to that because he is in the suburbs. So it's an environment he's probably not used to. So that's like another layer of like, yeah, I'm out of my element. I'm not that comfortable around this type of stuff. Just like how I talked in my last episode, how I feel uncomfortable in rich areas or in rich people's houses, like rich friends' houses. So it's along the same thing. So this opening was incredibly smart and very alarming, just to see how this went down with no witnesses, nothing, quiet neighborhood, gone. It can happen anywhere. It doesn't matter about your race, environment, nothing. Dangerous shit can just happen out of nowhere. And Jordan Peele did an excellent job of conveying that in just the first 2 minutes of this film. And it doesn't stop there with just the opening of this film. Jordan Peele is a man of taste and layers. He is smart. This is a very calculated movie with all the choices that he made. And this is what I was talking about earlier when I said I wish I knew the experience of some people who got to watch this movie. Because there's plenty of movies where it's purposely not subtitled because the director wants that person to feel excluded, and then also wants you to feel excluded as well. So that's why you don't get to know what's going on unless you happen to be somebody of that same race or that regional area and you know the language and you're understanding what's going on, but this person doesn't. So you see how you're purposely left out. This is done in a very smart and interesting way, because at the beginning of this movie, there is this needle drop of this song and it's in Swahili. And for the uneducated people like myself as well, I didn't really know until this movie came out, researching like shortly after and re-researching again. Swahili is a native language that's spoken in some parts of Africa. Once again, a movie for black people, about black people. Everybody else gets left out except those people. So there is a warning in the very beginning of this song, and it's needle dropped a few times throughout the film. But you already get the sense, if you understand the language, like, yo, what are they singing about? Like there's this warning playing on. It's like, yo, what the fuck? Like, what's gonna happen? So I really wish I got to see somebody's experience, or maybe somebody explain their experience of just hearing that in the beginning, right after you just saw the opening 2 minutes of the film. And I know this is jumping around, but I also got to take a second to acknowledge how Jordan Peele is a man of taste, because he definitely references The Shining quite a bit, and I'm glad he does. I'm glad he pays respect to Kubrick and of course Stephen King's work. The weird color choice of the opening text credits, it's a strange like aqua, like blue. The Shining did the same fucking thing. It's so weird. Like, it makes no sense for that to be like the opening color. Could I see yellow because of the poster that it has? Yeah, that makes perfect sense. But you get this weird PowerPoint like default blue. It's strange. It makes no sense. It sticks out, and it's just it's weird. It really just makes you look at it as like, that seems like very amateurish. Like, what the fuck? And it's a very prestigious and well-renowned horror movie. So it's strange that that's there. And Jordan Peele does the same thing in this movie, because what the hell does that type of blue have anything to do with what's going on in this movie right now? And I know I said I wasn't going to cover the movie Us, but there is this moment in Us that I saw pointed out on Reddit, because I only saw Us maybe once and I just didn't really care for it, so I wasn't going to watch it again. But he also mirrors the Grady twins dead in the hallway in that movie as well. He recreates that same shot of how the bodies are laid out. Amazing. Like, seeing that again, I'm like, damn, that is so good. He He knows what he's doing. And then there's another obvious nod in this movie where Rod, the TSA friend, is standing outside on the phone. And then you hear like a reference of, oh, flight 237, room 237. I don't know, man. I love that he does that. I love The Shining. I love Jordan Peele. So I love that these connections are a thing. He pays respect, and I love that. He's very humble. He knows the source material. He's a fan of the genre. He's a fan of these like previous directors and other like acclaimed people in that environment. And he knows what he's doing. He's walking a great path. All right, so enough about the intro, but we start off this movie. So they're getting packed, they're getting ready, they're gonna head out and go to her parents' place for the weekend. She says that her folks aren't racist whenever Chris actually gets the chance to actually ask her, like, okay, do they know I'm black and stuff? That is a thing a lot of people have to worry about. It is so fucking gnarly to me. I mean, of course, I'm in an interracial relationship, kind of, sort of, because I am white passing. It's, it's a lot more obvious, and not everybody is going to assume, oh yeah, he's half Mexican. Like, yeah, nobody knows that. So for the people who don't know my background, I'm half white, half Mexican. I was raised around the Mexican half of my family. I didn't learn Spanish. Unfortunately, it didn't stick to me. I do want to learn it, but it can be a bit discouraging sometimes because I'm a Mexican who doesn't speak Spanish or understand it really. So it does really suck sometimes and become intimidating. But my girlfriend is full Mexican, and so when we go over to their place, I am definitely left out a bit, but they tried. They're very accommodating, sweet people. Love them. Love hanging out with them. And of course, eating the food. Food's amazing. Mexican food is awesome. Fuck anybody who says otherwise, but I'm pretty sure even the black community can also acknowledge Mexican food is fucking bomb. But we go through the same thing, but that's not even the same thing as well, because I know older generations of Mexicans are about the same way. They didn't like the idea of black people mixing with Mexicans. I'm not sure why, but it really seems like a lot of people were just against black people back in the day. I really don't understand it. I wasn't raised that way. I wasn't told to like accept everybody or anything. I was just cool with everyone. I like everyone unless you're just a fucking asshole. That's kind of the whole point. And while they're taking that trip, Rod, who is Chris's friend who works for the TSA, he's one of the smartest protagonists I've ever seen in a horror movie. He gets it. And I remember distinctly the movie theater crowd loving him throughout this movie because he knows what he's talking about, but everybody just brushes him off like, all right, bro, you're being extra, you're being crazy. No, he was onto some shit. He knew exactly what was going on. He had a gut feeling he didn't like it, but that's just him. He didn't trust it, and he was right. So Chris calls Rod. They're talking because he's going to be watching their dog while they're away. And Rod is telling him, like, you weren't going to take my advice, but I told you not to go out there. Like, do whatever you want to do. But, I'm not there for it. Like, it's weird. Like, you shouldn't go to white people's house. He's being like that, but it comes from a place where he gets it, where it's like, yeah, dude, you never really know. It could be strange. I don't think he could have predicted what the hell is going to happen. But it's just like, yeah, man, do you really want to be in that environment and like nowhere else to go? Like, you can't stay at like a hotel or anything like that to where you have space to get away other than just being at the mercy of in their home. Like it's strange. It's so weird being in other people's houses sometimes, especially if you don't know them like that and you're not like that comfortable. But while they're riding down the road, deer jumps in the way, hits the car a little bit. And unfortunately, it lays dying in the woods. And so, like, cops are called. And he gets caught up on the situation. And he's only talking to Rose. Rose is the one talking to him. It's a white cop. And then Chris is just sitting at the front of the car. He's just kind of shocked by everything he just saw. So he's just, like, there. And the cop starts to ask him, you got a driver's license or ID on you? And Chris is cool with it. He's like, all right, yeah, I got to stay at ID. He's ready to give it to him because he's just being complicit. Trying not to turn it into a situation because you're in the middle of bumfuck nowhere, pulled over by a white cop, and you're a black guy. So he's just like, yeah, this is like another run-of-the-mill thing. He's just going along with it. And then this is where Rose, like, she really shines as an ally for most of this film. She's like, no, like, why? Why do you need to see it? Like, what did he do? Like, why are you asking him about his stuff? So she really tries to put the cop in his place and is like full on like, fuck yeah, man. Like, there we go. Because there are generations that eventually don't put up with that shit if you come from a family like that. Some people will take to it and just continue the cycle. But some people are just like, like, whatever. Like, why you gotta be that way? It's embarrassing. Like, they're with the times. They get it. And so they don't use, like, any slurs. They don't have those microaggressions. They really try to be there for those people, the oppressed, whether in some way, shape, or form, like politically or anything like that. They try to be there and stand up for them. Love that. Very admirable. Keep doing your thing. Hopefully that keeps going. You know, everybody should do it for everybody. It's just how it should be. And it's so sad this is not what Rose is actually like, man. I'm gonna go ahead and hit you guys with the cold water right now. She's not like this. She's obviously playing a part, and you'll come to know it in the end. It's just, I don't want to wait till the end and then try to go back and explain everything. So, spoiler alert, she is probably the biggest villain in this fucking movie. And she does phenomenal. Allison Williams, she fucking did amazing in this movie. Like, you fully believe for the most part she's on his side. You know, that's a great girlfriend. He found a good one. You know, like somebody's like taking care of him. Somebody's looking out for him. It's going to be like them two against like the world, even if it's her family, if they come off some sort of way. And there are plenty of times in this movie where she does that. She comes to his defense with like other people that come around. And so you're thinking, damn, you know, that's great, man. That's fucking wonderful. But nope. She's the furthest fucking thing from that, and it's insane. And I want to take a second to acknowledge this as well about the character of Chris that will have to do with race, with this whole cop interaction that just happened. So, a lot of like white people's argument, usually online, whenever there is like an altercation between cops and black people, it is this whole thing of, oh, why didn't they just listen? Why didn't they just comply? All this other stuff. When it's like, okay, when your rights are being infringed upon, you have the right to get mad. Especially if a lot of times, because of videos, they are power tripping, and it does happen. But can it go either side? Sometimes somebody's being a little like extra and just not complying with proper procedure. Yeah, it totally happens. But every race does that. It's not just black people. But in this situation, and I think in this movie, and obviously he was purposely written this way, Chris is kind of your ideal guy. He is the ideal guy that the white community would like. He's nice about the cops. He didn't bring up anything. He was really quick to just be like, you know what, here, he followed the rules, straightforward. He's not like some guy from like a hood or anything. He's not gang affiliated, nothing like that. He's not like covered in tattoos or like sags his pants or anything like that. The type of shit that those people really complain about. He's not that. He is a stand-up guy. He's educated. He's a photographer. He has a nice apartment. He seemingly has a good girlfriend. He has a dog. Like, he seems to have everything together. He's just your average Joe, man, just making his life. That's it. No hard problems, nothing. He doesn't associate himself with like the wrong people. None of that. You don't see that type of background is something he comes from. So for the white people that do watch this movie, who do have that type of prejudice against black people, like that type of mindset, he's not that. So they can't complain. So in that scenario, I feel like there was definitely like a conflict, and maybe some people who just kind of rolled their eyes like, oh, of course, like the white cops are the bad guy, you know, like whatever. Of course they're gonna make it that way. Well, yeah, no fucking duh, you goddamn doof. Like, yeah, you're gonna think that way because these people do get affected by this consistently. Even as a stand-up guy, not doing anything wrong, they didn't bump into people, no crime was committed. It's just a fucking deer that hit the car. And then it's like, oh yeah, man, I gotta know about you. That's a microaggression, because what did he have to do with that? What's the point? He wasn't driving. He doesn't have a driver's license. So what's the deal? So I like that he's purposely written that way, because nobody should be able to complain like, oh yeah, well, a certain demographic or something, or yeah, look how he's dressed, or look where he's from, like look at his background. He keeps his shit together for a lot of this movie. He deals with so much shit and only breaks once when his life is really, really threatened, to the point where it's like, all right, bro, like I'm fucking going in. And then he starts doing shit. He keeps his shit together. He is just a good dude trying to live his life, man. Thought he had a great relationship, just trying to be the best that he can be, progress in his passion, be there for his girlfriend and his friend. That's it. Just a regular dude. And so, of course, some people watched this movie and found a problem with that. Like, oh yeah, like of course. Yeah, that's the whole point. He's supposed to challenge that mindset that you already have, that's how all of these people are. And I love that he did it that way, because There's no excuse. Bad shit just happened to this dude for no reason. I mean, he's just a good stand-up guy. You know, he's just a regular everyday citizen. That's it, man. And if you definitely had a problem at all with his character, because he has done literally nothing wrong throughout this whole movie, that just says shit about you. But they finally get to the house, and in this incredible shot as well, purposely done for like a good bit, they're shot from a distance. So the moment Chris and Rose finally arrive to their house, the camera is just so far back because the whole point is to make you feel unwelcome. That is the whole point for us to witness it that way, to not feel welcomed. We're not on close-ups, we're not right next to the house, nothing. We're a ways away while they're unpacking their stuff, bringing it up, meeting, and even while they're walking through the house, we're still like on the other side of the house while they're going through it, still talking. It takes a while for us to really get in there because we aren't welcome. That is the point for us. We're not meant to be there. And there's like, I don't want to make this too long because you can, because there's so much you can dissect about this movie. And I don't want to just do all that because I do want to acknowledge just some things that deserve to be acknowledged, but then like move on to like something else and continue telling you about the story. And so we get to meet Dean and Missy. Dean is played by Bradley Whitford, who played Hadley in Cabin in the Woods. And I haven't seen this show, but I know it's a really big show. He plays Joseph in The Handmaid's Tale. But they go around the house, they're talking, they're getting to meet Chris and introducing him to the groundskeeper. And I guess you would say maid. I don't really know what else they really refer to as. I can't fully remember. But it's weird. You see kind of two like middle-aged white people, and then you see they have two black people who work for them. Very strange. Obviously, I think I would definitely feel some type of way if my significant other, if I went to their place and I saw they had like two Mexican people working for them. It's like, okay, yeah, job's a job. People do what they got to do, but it's like, like it would just leave like a little bit of a bad taste in my mouth. And now where a lot of this really stems from, this is where we're going to get insight as to why everything going on with their whole procedure is happening. So Dean's dad was in the Olympics in 1936 and he raced against Jesse Owens, who beat him. And he said that he was almost there, like he almost beat him, but he lost out to a black man who won 4 medals in 1936 in Berlin. So when the Nazis were in power, this black American won 4 gold awards and single-handedly just pretty much just spat in the face of Hitler's bullshit about the Aryan race being superior and shit like that. So that's something you can't really explain away right then and there. But that gave Dean's dad an idea. So he noticed the physique and started this mentality of, oh, well, I have the mind. This person is still beneath me, but they have like a superior genetic body. So what does he do about that? He comes up with the idea of transporting a brain, a white person's brain, into a black body just for the sole purpose of having that physical form. Fucking mental. That is so weird, but they do it, and this is what their family does, and they got rich off of just doing shit like this because convincing other white people and white families to do this who have money. So these rich people get to live a little longer, they get into younger bodies for whatever reason it may be, whether they want to be in sports, whether they want to like be able to have, you know, like a third leg or something. And it's one of those things, man. And Rod calls this, he says it way earlier, oh, it could be like anything like sex slaves or something. Once he figures out a little bit of what's going on by what Chris is telling him, he's like, oh, it could just be sex slaves. So, you know, it's weird, white people do it. And that is another thing that's like lightly touching on the fact that some and plenty of white people do fetishize black people. And of course that started way back in slavery, because there's countless stories of how like the women of like slave owners, like whether it be the wives or like the daughters, like would be interested in their slaves and like all this other stuff. It started like so much shit. It's there, man. It's just one of those things. But I think people are attracted to whatever. But obviously that started a lot of shit. Plenty of people have died from either false accusations about those things, or just for the fact alone they did participate in that, or if not, they didn't participate, and them facing that rejection, those white women facing that rejection, led to those false allegations, and then people getting lynched or just flat out murdered. So is a very terrible thing. This is definitely going to be a very strange episode, and a lot of it has to do with race, but that is the point. And while we're talking about the whole Nazis thing right then and there, I do want to acknowledge this very interesting choice. So Chris, he's wearing some boots, and you see this whenever he goes and looks at the deer whenever it's dying in the woods. He has boots wrapped around with blue laces. Now, I don't know if the color has any significance. I didn't see anything personally, so if somebody out there knows something, please by all means inform me. But I talked about this when I did the green room, how I thought the black boots with the red lacing, fucking mint, dude. That is good shit. That is, it looks good. It has a terrible fucking meaning behind it, but it looks good. So seeing that this is a black person wearing boots with blue laces, and a lot of people always pin like red versus blue, like those two colors just like clash together, like they're definitely like opposites, when in the color spectrum they're not opposites. But you know, you correlate those two, red versus blue, you know, good versus evil, like that's just how it is. And I see that as like, I think that's just like a nod to that, just like, oh yeah, once again, fuck Nazis, you know, blue laces on boots on a black guy. Crisp. But I don't like the color blue, that's just me. I think the reds look cool though. But now I was talking about the staff. So there is a cook named Georgina, played by Betty Gabriel. I know her as Detective Cortez from the Upgrade movie. Phenomenal movie, great movie. She also played Lainey in The Purge, election year. And she also played Nari in Unfriended, The Dark Web. So she's been in some horror shit. She did great, and she has phenomenal performance in this movie. Literally everybody does. Everybody hones it in on this movie. They really, really put their all into this. But now what's funny is because the groundskeeper and the cook, they're both technically the grandparents to Rose. So it's Dean's like mom and dad. That's who they are. So Dean's dad always wanted to be fast. He has a groundskeeper who is incredible at running. He has a good physique. So there's that. And then Georgina, she just has great looking skin. She's youthful, she's young, and she takes care of the kitchen that his mom loved. So that's why we just see her in the kitchen the very first thing. She's not cleaning it because, oh, she's like a maid or like the cook. No, she's cleaning it because she loved this kitchen. So that is double thing right there. We're thinking one thing when it's actually another thing. And there's plenty of that throughout this movie. I love how there's so many layers to this. Like it's like an onion. There's layers. And yep, that's exactly what it is, and that is a reference to what you think it is, if you know. But now Dean tries his best to really win over Chris, so they're trying to be like, oh yeah, you know, he talks to him in such a way, like purposely saying things. You can tell whenever a white person, or probably any person, purposely says something to kind of relate to a black person by like speaking slang that you could probably tell, like, that's not something you say regularly. So there's that, and then the whole funny meme thing from here is, oh, I would have voted for Obama like a third time if I could. Like that whole thing is like, all right, dude, like just because he is a black man, that doesn't necessarily mean he would have liked Barack Obama. So it's like, that's kind of weirdly to just associate with that. Like it's one of those things. It is a microaggression. There are plenty of microaggressions, and whenever they do happen, and a lot of people do them, everybody's guilty of it, because these aren't things you were fully thinking of. Because a lot of people have the mindset, oh, well, you know, I'm not saying any other slurs, and I don't like, you know, want to keep them away from me or like segregate them or anything. Like, yeah, I don't have any of that. So obviously I'm not racist, but that's not the case. You can still say or just do things that do have that input behind it, but you're not aware of it because you don't think about it. And it's like, yeah, no, like you wouldn't do that to like another white person, but change the color of that person. Now you do things just a little different, or you're inclined to say something a little different, or to say something in particular because you are talking to another person of color. So now it's like, yeah, that is a microaggression. Like, it's kind of weird. Does everybody make a big deal of it? No, but some people who do pick up on those things, they're like, yeah, you know, like, how about we don't do that, you know? Like, we don't say that something. And it's perfectly fine to be checked on it, because you do need to be checked. Now, am I saying somebody should like scream and like rip your head off and all that stuff? No. But is this something you consistently do in bad faith? Then yeah, you kind of deserve it. But the whole point is they definitely have the right to feel how they feel, and if they call you out on it in a respectful manner, yeah, don't take offense by it. Just actually be like, oh, my bad. Like, that's my fault. Like, acknowledge your own bullshit that you do to other people. A lot of times we just do things and we don't really think about it. Hold yourselves accountable. That's the whole point, man. That's how we progress. That's how we move forward. That's how we help try to get over these problems and just try to get better and better as days and times go on. Now, I know I'm not trying to make this like a whole social commentary thing, but like I said, you have to acknowledge like these things. But I feel like that's probably going to be the end of it as far as I can really say of talking about all that, because I do want to get more into what happens in the movie than what the movie's about and all these little intakes. But there is like so much, so much. You could watch it multiple watches and you catch up on multiple stuff. It is insane. It's definitely a movie that has rewatch value. But now they finally have dinner, and then you get to see Rose's brother come home, and his name is Jeremy. Jeremy is played by Caleb Landry Jones. And I only know him as Banshee from X-Men First Class. He did great in there, but in this movie, he's fucking creepy, and he's like the only family member that doesn't really have a facade. Whenever he talks to Chris, he talks about his genetic makeup and how he would be good for, like, I think wrestling or jiu-jitsu or something like that, some type of martial arts he said he has the body for, and then he wants to test it out on him, and he starts to push boundaries a little bit. So he's the only one that doesn't really hide it too well, but everyone does have their own bullshit though, because Missy, she's also like a therapist, like a hypnotherapist, and she notices that Chris is kind of jonesing for a cigarette, and so she says, hey, I can work on you, and I could probably help you kick that habit. And just poking around a little bit, and he doesn't like the idea of poking around in his head, because there was this traumatic incident that we definitely see throughout the film when he was younger, how he does harbor this guilt because his mom died. She got in an accident and was able to make it home, and she was slowly dying over hours, but because he was scared and just didn't really know what to do, he just sat there watching TV. So he is an indirect cause of his mom passing away at such a young age. Like, he was a kid, like definitely not even double digits. So that's something that plays around in his head. But throughout the film, we also get these little incidences of Georgina as well, where we see her like pause, like she becomes like catatonic. Like, it's kind of weird. She has these weird moments where she's just like almost like not there. And that's because I believe that it is her inner self, the real Georgina, is trying to come out and try to battle it. Because there is this one moment where Chris is talking to Georgina, and then she starts to like tear up and cry, and you see like her face, like it's like weird, like it's almost like the facade is breaking, but then out of nowhere she goes back to smiling and just says like no, like repeatedly, like a bunch of times, but like in a like nice manner, but overly nice manner, and it's so fucking weird. And I believe she was talking to the real Georgina to go to the sunken place, which I'm gonna get into in a second of what that is. So one night while Chris couldn't sleep, he was still jonesing, so he decides to go out, walk around, get some fresh air. And then whenever he comes back in, he comes across Missy, who is just sitting there in the fucking dark waiting for him, and just turns on a light. So she has this teacup that she's like stirring around. She's not even really drinking, she's just stirring it around. And so she asks him to sit and talks to him, just asking him little questions. And then eventually he starts to catch on to the fact like, oh, are we like in a session? Like, is this what you're trying to do right now? And he doesn't really want to be a part of it, but he's also trying to be nice and respectful because he is in their home and it is his significant other's, parents. And so she starts to dig a little deeper, and then he notices he's starting to talk, and he's giving away like this information, and they talk about the stuff with his mom, and he doesn't really want to do it anymore, and he starts to get anxiety, starts scratching like the chair, like palming like the arms of the chair a bit. And whenever he does start to like kind of resist and want to get out of the situation, she just tells him to like sink. And in this amazing shot where this happens, and I love this, the sunken place is one of the coolest like horror like ideas I've seen in a while. I thought it was great. I know it's something so simple, but it's fucking scary as well. And the way Missy like talks, like the modulation that they did on her voice as well, so good, dude. So fucking good. It is creepy. And how you get this flashback of Chris as a kid where he's watching the TV whenever she says sink, and the kid just like falls into the bed, like full on Nightmare on Elm Street style. He gets like swallowed by the bed and falls in. And then you just see Chris just falling into this void. And it is amazing. It is silent. It is very oppressive because he can't do anything. He is just catatonic, like lost in a daze, like just looking at her, eyes crying. Like, I don't know how Daniel Kaluuya was able to do this shot. You know, it's wild that he's just there, not blinking, nothing. His eyes are watering, like everything. He fucking kills it in this scene. And so seeing that sunken place of just him there, it's kind of like he's just lost in space or something, but definitely terrifying, a place you don't want to be. But the sunken place is where their subconsciouses go whenever their body is now being controlled by like these white people who have paid to have them. It's not permanent either, as we get to see later in the film. There's this giant get together of all these wealthy white people who just show up, and they're all overly nice, and they're talking to Chris in such a strange way. Like they're talking to him as if he's not even really human. But you know, people feel on him, they feel his physique, they talk about like how he must be good at certain things or whatever the fuck. One chick just flat out asks Rose, like, oh, like, is it better? And clearly she's talking about like, you know, the sex life, and it's fucking strange. And even Rose is like, Lisa, chill. Like, you know, like she mouths it and stuff. So it's very weird. They don't even look at him as like a real person, but the sole purpose of all those people being there is to observe Chris, not because it's like family members and so on and so forth, as it is. No, they're there to look at him because they're going to bid on who wants him, who wants his body. And while he is there, he finally comes across another man. And once he finally sees him, it's Andre from the beginning. Like, he's clean shaven, different clothes. He's there with an older white woman. So it's definitely like, whoa, like what's going on? And watching this, you still don't know anything about the whole brain transitioning or nothing. You just see the fact of Andre is now with this white woman, and he's just talking like kind of weird. Like, obviously you're thinking like, oh, just hypnosis. That's all anybody's thinking. It's like, all right, they just hypnotized him. That sucks. And they just kept him. But Chris finally talks to him and is like, I'm glad to see like another like black guy here. Chris thinks that he knows Andre from somewhere, but he can't think where. So he wants to get a picture of him to probably send it to his friend. Whenever Chris does take that picture, the flash is on, flashes in his eyes, and you just see like this white in his eyes and just slowly start to fade. And then you see Andre's nose start to bleed. And then out of nowhere, he's just like, get out. And then just repeatedly says, get out. And thing is, in your mind, you're only thinking, oh, Andre's flipping on Chris because he took his picture. Like, that's what's going on. Not the fact that he just gave him a moment to escape the sunken place, and now he has full control of his body. So now he's trying to warn Chris to get away from all these weird ass people. But you don't see it that way. You don't really know what's going on. But the next time we see Andre, everything's back to normal. He just had a moment with Missy where obviously she probably put the real Andre back into the sunken place. Terrible, man. Man, my boy Lakeith, bro. Damn. Doing him dirty. That's when Rose and Chris, they go and get some air, try to clear up everything. He tries to express, like, I'm just not really feeling it. Like, something's off here. Like, I kind of want to go. He even breaks down a little bit and opens up about the situation that happened with his mother when he was younger with her. And you firmly believe she is on his side because she's consoling him. You know, she's like crying, like, yeah, you know, we'll leave soon. Like, yeah, like, I'm here for you, like, I love you, all this other stuff. So you really buy into it, like, damn, man, like, this is rough. Like, whenever you see that portrayal later in the film, just like, damn, bro, like, really? Like, she had us all fooled. But while they're away, Dean starts to auction off the opportunity for Chris to be taken over. And the guy that actually wins is somebody Chris was talking to. He's another photographer, but he's blind and he's just older in age. And he just believes he'll get more acknowledgement for his work if he's like a young black artist. And then he also wants Chris's eye. And they spoke and they actually bonded a little bit because Jim Hudson, the character who is played by Stephen Root, I know him as Gordon from Dodgeball and Underdog Story. I know him from there. He was separated from everybody. He wasn't with that whole crowd at the house. He was separated, and it really makes it seem like, oh, he's not one of these people. Like, he's just there just being nice. Like, he's not a bunch of these jackoffs who are having all these microaggressions and saying all these weird things. He's none of them. So that's a cool guy. So it's a real shame you got to see like Chris and Jim bond a little bit, but he ultimately wins, and so he's going to be the one that's going to get popped into his head. And now whenever Chris and Rose are finally back at the house, they're going to get their stuff and they're going to go. So they already decided on it. So everybody's already gone. It's nighttime, and Chris is able to actually get a hold of Rod, and Rod tells him, I know who that is. I know who the guy is, like on the phone, like that you took a picture of. That's Andre. That is the guy that went missing, and was saying like, yeah, you know, we've met him before. And that's when Chris starts to put it together, like, okay, I knew something was off. And then Rod is going on like sex slaves. Like I told you this shit happens, man. Whenever they're getting ready to go, Chris notices this little like weird door in the bedroom that is open. So he goes to look, and he looks, there's a box. And in that box is a bunch of pictures of Rose with like other black men, and then Georgina at the end. So these are like couple photos. And to Chris's knowledge, he is the first black guy she's ever dated. And so it's like, all right, this is strange. So he knows something's wrong, but he still is kind of holding out for the fact she's going to get me out of here. Like, he probably thinking to himself, maybe this is like a secret thing. But the whole Georgina thing is like, okay, it's strange too. So it's like, what the fuck? Like, that's weird. So he wants to get out. No pun intended. So they go to leave, and he is like subtly surrounded because Jeremy is at the front door. He has this lacrosse stick, and he's just leaned up against the door, so he's blocking the door. Then you got the dad in the living room. You got Missy covering another stairway, I think like covering the kitchen. And then you actually have Rose, who is on the stairs. So it's kind of like every possible exit is just covered. And then this tense moment where the last little bit of hope that you believe that Rose is still a good person. She's trying to find her keys, like she's searching her purse. So it's like, oh shit, like maybe they took the keys or something. Something's not right, because she's still playing the part that she's sympathetic with him and that they want to go, and that the family is just acting weird. And so he starts to lose his shit, and he's like yelling at Rose, like the keys, like over and over and over. And then she finally just takes him out. They're wrapped around her hand. She's like, I can't give you these. And so that's when he loses his mind and then tries to like force his way out. But because he was hypnotized earlier, Missy just hits the whole like 3 dings with the teacup, and he's out. And then now we know this man is just stuck in this house with all these crazy ass white people. And on the side mission, like subplot part of this movie, you got Rod, who is kind of doing this whole investigative thing where he's trying to figure out like what happened, like something's fishy, he knows something isn't right, showing pictures of Andre, telling them everything he's heard from Chris, like, oh, he's out there, he's been missing. And the cops don't believe him at all, and they're all like black cops. And I believe that's its own like story right there of how like some people don't believe other people and their stuff and their own experiences or situations. So they just chalk it up to, oh well, it's like a sugar mama thing. He met a white woman. She's clothing him and all this other stuff. Like, hey, whatever. People do what they want to do, man. Not our business, whatever. So now he's worried and super concerned about everything going on, and Chris. All while Chris is being prepped for surgery, and they're getting ready to take his brains out. And then he gets put to sleep with the whole hypnotization about the little teacup thing. That teacup, man, is fucking powerful. I think all she does is like stir it or ding it 3 times, and he's gone. Like, he's out. But he was smart, because the chair that he's sitting in, and this is very on the nose for like the people back in the day who didn't believe like, oh, there's all these like subtle things about racism and all this other stuff in this movie. It is very clear cut when it gets to this point, because the chair that he was in, which was specifically made for this movie, it has cotton underneath the leather. And so he is strapped to it. So while he's having one of his moments of anxiety where he's like scratching at the chair that he got from when he was younger, he was doing that. And now to kind of avoid that whole hypnotherapy shit that Missy put on him, get like balls of cotton and put it in his ear so that way he can't hear the ding anymore or hear like the stirring of the cup. And that's what saves him. It is so weird that picking cotton is what saves him. Like, that is the whole point of that situation. And whenever Jeremy comes to collect him, that's when he gets the drop on him and starts bashing his head with some stuff. And let it be known, up until this point, nobody has died in this movie. It is literally like an hour and a half. And this movie is an hour and 44 minutes with credits. It's like an hour and a half before the first person's even killed. And I think technically the first person that would be dead in this movie is Jim Hudson because he's getting prepped for surgery. So his head and brain and all that's getting cut. And spoiler, it's not going to happen, you know, and we're not going to see him again after this. So he's like dead. He's like the first person dead in an hour and a half. So not your traditional horror movie. And this goes to show you don't have to have like gratuitous kills or a lot of blood, or like it doesn't have to be gory or nothing. It is all about the story. That is what matters. Does it help to see like people get chopped up and like incredible deaths? Yes, of course. We love to see that shit in the horror genre. But this also shows you can have that same effect with just very, very minimal stuff, or probably little to none, because nobody dies until close to the end of this movie. But Jeremy goes and tries to collect Chris, so he goes to unstrap him, gets his head bashed in, and this is when Chris is able to walk through the house and try to find his way out. And in the house, there's like all these different like trophies and symbolisms of just like deer, and I think there is something significant about that. I mean, clearly so, because they're like everywhere. You see all these like trophy heads and stuff. But Chris actually gets a hold of one and uses it as a weapon to kill Dean. And whenever he does like run up, in a very nice jump scare too, like not your traditional jump scare, it is like a good guy coming to kill like a bad guy, not the other way around. So he just rams one of those heads like into Dean, and he just gets punctured by the antlers and dies from that. And then whenever he falls down and succumbs to his wounds, he knocks over a candle, which why the fuck do you have a candle lit, multiple ones at that, lit in your fucking like your surgical room? That's when it lights stuff on fire, and so the house is going to slowly start burning down as well. While all this is going on, Rose is just in her room being the weirdest fucking chick ever, because she has like a little bowl of cereal of like Fruit Loops and then like a cup of milk, and just has them completely separate. So she's like drinking it but then like eating like the cereal itself, so separating the color from the white. And I think Jordan Peele said he only did that just to look strange. I think he didn't think about the fact that, oh, it's color separated from white. So that's like another thing. I think that was just a happy accident. And people are dying left and right now at this point. Chris is going through the whole fucking family tree while she's just in her goddamn room. And while he is trying to get out, he comes across Missy. And the first thing she tries to do is go for that little fucking like teacup and try to put another one on him. But he says, no, fuck that. Runs up, scoops that shit like off the table, breaks it, and then she has nothing else to do, so she gets like a letter opener or something and tries to stab him. And in a badass move, because he is so fucking done with this place and wants to get the hell out, he just palms that shit, gets stabbed like directly through the hand, and takes it like a fucking champ. Barely even like shows emotion other than just flat out anger. And then Missy just gets stabbed in the head because he just turns it around, still in his palm, just turns it around and just like pushes it into like her face or like her head, like somewhere in this general area, and she's fucking gone. And now we know the fact that Georgina is also one of the grandparents. She tries to kill him while they're in a car, because he does grab a car and try to escape, because he does believe at this point that they're regular people, that they weren't like changed. So while he's trying to drive away, that's when she tries to get him, but he crashes the car and that ends up killing her in the process. And then while he's trying to get out of that and just walk down this long ass road that he needs to get out, you got the groundskeeper, which is pretty much Dean's dad, just running down, channeling that athletic physique that he really, really wanted, tackles him. They start fighting a little bit, like just tussling around a little, and he's able to get one up on him. Chris is able to just do a flash and set the guy free. And this is where Rose finally catches up to everything, and she has a gun. She has like a rifle. And so she still believes that the groundskeeper is still like her granddad. So he's like, all right, I'll finish it off. So she gives him the gun, the groundskeeper the gun, and so he just turns to her and shoots her in the gut. He got his revenge, man. And unfortunately, I guess just because of all the shit, I mean, because you're not going to get rid of it, because you have somebody else's brain in your body, and it could probably take, I don't know, maybe him falling asleep or somebody else hypnotizing him or falling under something, and his body's taken over again. So he shoots her, and then he decides, you know what, I'm going to kill the granddad as well. And so he turns the gun on himself, and boom, groundskeeper dead as well. That sucks, but he went out like a fucking champ though. And then you see Rose is still alive because she only got shot in the stomach. And so she tries to go for the gun, and Chris is like, nah. So he stops that, and then he gets on top of her. It's one of those like very personal, like he just starts to choke her, but not like violently, but just like slowly does it, because it's just like, man, fuck you and the shit you put me through. Like, Jesus. So he starts to do that, and because he's not that person, and because he did love this person at one point, I feel like he can't bring himself to do that. So now he just falls back on it, like he just lets her go. And the whole time while he's like choking her, she has this fucking like weird menacing like smile. It's insane. But while that's happening, and I remember my movie theater experience where people were just like groaning at the fact of this next scene, because out of nowhere you hear a siren and you see lights reflect off Chris's face, because we have a close up of him. And man, everybody knew how this was gonna go. Like, nobody is gonna believe this dude. This dude is gonna go to jail and get blamed for everything, and this white woman is gonna be saved. Nah, man. Thankfully, not the case. But it was shot like that originally, that he would go to jail. That was the original ending. But I think they opted for, and I think rightfully so, because you don't want to make it too bleak. But it still would have been good regardless, I believe. But like after going through all that, man, people wanted a happy ending, and I feel like Jordan Peele had to give people a happy ending. So it turns out the car that pulled up is his friend Rod, who is in his fucking TSA car and has the lights going. So he shows up. He is another real one, man. He shows up to save his friend. It's like, yo, I told you, man. I fucking told you. He's like, I'm TS motherfucking A. And it was great. Like, Rod, like I said, great dude. He's smart. He's a good character. Always listen to Rod, man. You got friends like Rod trying to tell you how it is and keep it 100% real with you. You gotta respect that. You gotta at least listen to them, and like, all right, take it into consideration of shit that they say. And while Chris and Rod drive away, that's when Rose finally just succumbs to her wounds and she just bleeds out. So Chris got away from all that, but there's still plenty of other white people out there that are doing that. And unfortunately, Andre Lakeith Sandfield, he's lost forever in the Jordan Peele universe, sadly. Man, like I said, there's so much more. I'm trying not to make this too long because there's so much you can really talk about, and it's insane. But this is a really, really good movie, and by no means is this movie trying to make you feel guilty for being white or anything. The whole point of the movie is just, it's just to kind of like point out, like, yeah, black people can be scared of white people too, and rightfully so, because there are scary ass white people out there. Yeah, the argument can be made any race can be scary, yeah, of course, but this is their primary aggressor, so they have the right to feel how they feel. And it's supposed to put you in that environment of a stand-up dude who's just trying to do the right thing, love the person he loves, and just go about his life, can get put through shit and has a breaking point, and he did what he had to do to survive. It doesn't make him a bad person because of the color of his skin. And the same thing with the white people. Obviously, not all white people are bad, but these rich white people who participate in this like environment, in this whole thing, like this culty weird nonsense, yeah, they're bad, but not everybody else. And something I thought about, and I think it might have been pointed out to me as well, I can't remember, but we don't even know if the cop was a bad guy in the very beginning. And I say this because we honestly have no idea if the cop was a bad dude from the beginning of the film, because maybe he could have known about the fact, and this could be a layer to that, because the first layer, we're thinking, oh, this is somebody just being racist, like with a microaggression, and it's like, oh, like, I want to see your ID. Obviously, Chris had nothing to do with the incident that just happened, but it could have been for the sole fact maybe the cop did know that there is like a suspicious pattern of black men going missing in this general area. So maybe that's why he probably wanted to know who he was. Maybe he was curious about what was going on. But the whole reason Rose was super defended about that whole ordeal was because she didn't want a paper trail of Chris being there. They didn't want tickets, his name run, nothing. So I have a feeling, and in my head canon, I want to believe that cop wasn't a bad dude. He was just probably aware of something that's like a little off and was just doing his job. Maybe. I don't know if it's intended that way, but I like to think that's what it was. Like, hopefully he wasn't a bad dude. That's Get Out, man. 2017's Get Out. It's phenomenal. Jordan Peele did amazing. I'm always going to be looking forward to any project he does. But alrighty, guys, before we go, I got to give you guys another cookie's fortune. So here we go. Don't be in a hurry in the short term for the things that you want to last in the long term. Do with that what you will, ladies and gentlemen. But until next time, be excellent, be kind, subscribe to the podcast.